Thank you for joining us.
Sorry, I was momentarily indisposed.
So, let's chat for a few minutes about this obvious thing. This is a really authentic feeling Japanese jidaigeki samurai film, and yet you had an incredible sort of multinational team and people with lots of experience overseas. For example, your DP, who's Japanese but lives in West Hollywood. I want to ask, most of all, about the music by Philip Glass. Yay, Philip Glass. This is the thing that, for me, really sets this apart from all films that have gone before it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Philip is an old friend of mine. The first film I did with Philip was Candyman in '92. So, you know, I couldn't really imagine this film without Philip in a way. I think he just has that kind of, you know, Philip in the 60s was actually an assistant to Ravi Shankar. And so he has this sort of straddles between Eastern and Western music, and obviously he has a very original sound and has done a number of films that were, well, he did one notable Japanese film, which was Mishima, of course, but also did Kundun and various things. But I think he has a kind of very kind of unique flavor that's just Philip, really, and he wanted to do it, you know, so you know, when I cut the film and I tempted with a lot of stuff of his that I had, and then came to New York and showed it to Philip, and he threw most of it out. But some of it, he said, "Oh, that works," so we just reorchestrated it. But he's got such a kind of unique mind, such a unique kind of. I think what's interesting about Philip is that he uses the repetitive forms and stuff, but it has a kind of really kind of unique emotional impact too. I think it's you know, he is, let's face it, the best living composer. I mean, in my opinion. You know.
And you had already spoken a little bit about Akira Kurosawa and his influence on the film, and actually he's also someone who used a lot of Western musicians and music in his films.
I mean, I think one of the things that appealed to me about the whole, I didn't really, before I got into this film, know about the whole story about Commodore Perry and his arrival and what a huge moment that was in Japanese history. But one of the things that, all the things that Perry brings with him in the film were things that Perry really brought. And they all became Japanese industries: electronics, whiskey,
guns,
and of course music is one of them. The moment Hayabusa hears Yankee Doodle, he's really into it. And of course, you know, classical music is ever since that moment became very big in Japan. You know, so. I mean, obviously, by the time Perry arrived in 1853, the height of the Western classical period was already over. We already had Schubert and Beethoven and everything.
Yes, but you know, in Japan had to catch up.
Well, no, I know.
There were hundreds of years of isolation.
That's
during
right.
which they didn't hear those things. Let me ask Nana-san. Of course, we have, many of us, seen you in a lot of other films, but this is your first jidaigeki. How in the world did you prepare to look like you've been running and fighting and riding horses forever and ever?
1ヶ月、撮影の1ヶ月前からこの馬とアクションの練習をしていて、すごくこう初めてのことだらけですごい戸惑いもあったんですけど、やってるうちにどんどん楽しくなって、なんかこうやってみよう、ああやってみようみたいな、どんどんアイデアと、あと男の人と女の人を演じる上で、なんか美しさとか強さとか、そういうふうにこう演じるようにします。
So I started training with horseback riding as well as fight choreography 1 month before filming began. And at first there were a lot of new things, so I struggled for a bit with that, but over time it became really fun for me. And I started to try things and throw out ideas. And on top of that, playing a man and a woman, I thought about the beauty and strength and how that would manifest differently depending on the part I was playing.
You have now done 2 films with foreign directors, and that's something that not very many Japanese can say. How would you describe the difference, if there is any, between working with a foreign director like Bernard Rose and with a Japanese director? Do you see any big differences?
そうですね、なんか日本のがもっと固まってる感じというか、なんか海外の方がもっとなんか自由で、なんかこうその場をすごくこう楽しんでいて、海外の方がなんかこう時間をこうハッピーに使ってるというか、セリフもこうあるべきっていうことがなくて、このバナード監督の現場でもそうだったんですけど、なんかこう台本はあるけどなんかこうなくてないみたいなものというか、その中でこう自分が演じてみて思うことがあったら、じゃあ自分がその役だからそれを言葉にして演じてみてっていう、なんかこうとにかくこう投げてくださって、それを自分でこう噛み砕きながらお芝居するっていうのがなんかこう怖さでもあるんですけど、新鮮ですごく自由で、その中でこうみんなこう不安な部分も私もありましたし、みんなもそれに戸惑うことはあったんですけど、でもその中にすごい楽しさとかなんか新鮮味があって、やっていてすごく刺激的な現場でした。
So I would say that in Japan it just feels generally more fixed. Working with a Japanese director, working with directors from overseas, it feels more free and present, focused on enjoying the moment. To me, it felt like a happier use of time. And even with dialogue, there's not something where it's like, it has to be like this. For example, on this set, it felt like there was a script, but there wasn't. And you know, even with Bernard, he told me if I discover something while I'm acting, if I think of something, for me to try it, and because I'm the one playing that character, and so that at times felt a little intimidating to me, but at the same time, very fresh and exciting, and I felt a sense of freedom, and I think that was true for the rest of the cast as well, where it sometimes felt scary, but ultimately really fun and exciting, and I felt really inspired by it.
I suppose it's only fair to ask you as well, was there anything that you were unprepared for by the time you were ready to shoot working on a Japanese set? Because actually the film is shot in Japan, which is something that even Martin Scorsese didn't do with Silence. They shot in Taiwan. What was for you a really different experience shooting in Japan as opposed to elsewhere?
Well, I mean, the crew was fantastic in terms of the level of skill and how hard they worked. Like, there are no chairs on a Japanese set. There are no trailers on a Japanese set. You know, and so all these things actually, I think, and also if you turn a setup around, everybody picks up the equipment. There's no, I'm a grip, I don't touch the electrical, you know, I'm a prop guy, I don't touch the grip equipment, you know, so things go much faster in that sense. But the thing that I was most looking forward to, going to shoot a film in Japan, I thought would be fabulous, was the most disappointing thing, and you know what that is?
Yes.
The catering. Catering on Japanese movies sucks. Believe me, it does. It's true. Don't you think?
茶色いものばっかり、なんか揚げ物とか。
There's like a bunch of fried things, and lots of brown food.
And lots of white rice.
But the thing is that I remember saying to the crew at certain points when we were halfway up a mountain, like in the pouring rain, eating some cold rice balls, like, don't you guys ever complain about the food? They went, no. We don't complain. And that's one of the best things about working in Japan.
Okay, I think we should hear from the audience. We're eager to hear your questions. So, who would like to ask a question? And we have a microphone, or we have 2 microphones. Please wait for the microphone to reach you. Hands up if you, okay, I see a hand here. We can start with that, and then there was another one over here.
I'll just ask, it's both.
I think the microphone is, yeah, if you can wait, the microphone is coming from the right-hand side, please.
We can hear you anyway, just yell it out.
Yeah, please yell and I'll repeat it for everyone if I can hear you.
It's fine. I have a good voice. It's actually for the both of them. Since we're becoming more international as far as watching subtitled films in America, which was not as common, what would you like to see as far as more collaboration, as far as actors as well as producing and directing films between Japan and America, and how we could increase that collaboration?
Just to make sure everyone heard, how can we increase collaboration between Japan and America, because so many films are now international affairs? And the question is for both.
Well, yeah, I mean, for a start, I think Nana should be in an American movie.
Yes.
I think she should, really. And you know, and I think the next time they make a kaiju, they should make it in Japan. And because, you know, I don't really want to see Godzilla attacking anywhere but Tokyo. So yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I really think that there's a lot of you know, the samurai genre. It was very popular in the U.S. in the 50s and 60s. Films like Seven Samurai were hits here in that era. And I think this thing about subtitles is that it's people. There used to be a bigger acceptance of subtitled movies, and I think that's how it should be. And like, I mean, even when they had the Shogun TV show on in the 70s in the US, it was mostly in Japanese. I don't think it was even subtitled. I think the dialogue, but it was definitely bilingual. You know, this kind of movie, if you're doing it in English, it just becomes, there's something about it that's wrong. And just doesn't feel right. And I think that people should do things in their original language. Like, for example, I don't know, recently I saw the restoration of the Bonded Ship War and Peace. And you know, usually when they do War and Peace, they get a bunch of English actors. I mean, I've been guilty of it, doing that in Russia too. You get a bunch of English actors pretending to be Russian. They don't feel Russian at all. They have to be talking Russian, you know? And I think it's, you know, we all sat through The Godfather and it was half in Italian, so I don't see why not. I think that I don't know, I grew up watching subtitled films and I'm very happy to do it. And I think that the problem is usually with distributors, not filmmakers and audiences. It's distributors who make edicts like people don't want to watch subtitled films. I don't believe it's true.
Nana-san?
はい、そうですね。なんかやっぱ日本の海外の作品とかはすごくたくさん出ていきたいと日本の役者さんも多分思っていると思うんですけど、でもやっぱりそこにはなんか枠みたいなのがやっぱりあって、なかなかそこのアメリカと日本とのなんていうんですかね、やっぱり言葉もありますし、英語っていうのがやっぱり必要になってくると、やっぱ他の国だったりアジアの他の国だったりそうなってしまうので、なんかもっとなんか侍の他に日本人が演じられる役だったりとか、そういうチャンスがたくさんあったら、なんかもっといろんなコラボレーションで楽しく面白い映画だったり、そういうものが出てくるんじゃないかなと思います。 そうなってほしいなと思います。
So I think there's a lot of Japanese actors who would love to take part in overseas films, but it feels like there is currently a barrier, mainly of language. So if you don't speak English, it can be tough for Japanese actors to have these collaborations, but I hope that in the future there's more roles for Japanese actors other than samurai kind of roles, samurai genre. So there's more kinds of collaboration outside of this kind of style.
Okay, there was a hand in this area. Did I see a hand? All right. Yes, the gentleman here. Oh, now we have it on. Thank you.
Hello, wonderful film, enjoyed it very much. And my question is to the director, how come you wind up doing 5 Leo Tolstoy adaptations? It must be the world record.
I think it is, by the way. Because he's very good and free. Public domain. To kill a combination for me.
Obviously a candid answer. Thank you. Next question. Yes?
The language barrier between the Western crew and the Japanese crew an issue at all?
Well, we didn't really have any Western crew on the shoot except me. And I had a very, very, very good translator who did simultaneous translations into an earpiece, like with the mouthpiece. And so, you know, if I was talking to Nana, she'd be talking to me, and I'd be just sitting there going, nodding, and I'd be getting a translation in my ear, and then when she'd finish, and I'd just say, "Damenda." And it gave people the impression that I spoke Japanese. Or just, "So desu ne," which is an all-purpose answer, actually. Get you out of any situation.
How did that work for you? Did you feel there was any communication problem at all, or?
そうですね。でもまだ
そうですか。
まあでもないって言ったら嘘になるんですけど、でも監督は悪い言葉をいっぱい現場で言ってました。
To say no would be a lie, that there weren't any issues, but also the director was using a lot of bad words on set.
Do you want to explain that?
Well, you know, the first thing whenever you go to a new country, you say, "How do I swear?" You know, tell me all the worst things you can say. It's a challenge in Japanese. But, you know, I managed to find a few. And if there are any Japanese people here, I won't say all that so stuff, but yeah, yes, I think the enough said, the better, really.
More questions from the floor. Yes, a hand over here. And then in the very back.
Thank you. This is a question for Nana-san. So what was your favorite scene to play out, and what was the toughest scene in the movie?
難しかったシーンはそうですね。男性役を演じるのがやっぱりすごく難しくて、女性の雪姫としてはこう着物をさばいたりとかアクションでのその動きだったりそれもあったんですけど、男性になるってどういうふうに見せれば男性になるんだろうとか、やっぱりこう男性の中に一人女性がいるっていうこう難しさみたいな、どういうふうにお芝居を見せればいいんだろうっていうのはすごく悩みました。
So I think the hardest part for me was when I was in disguise as the man. When I was playing Princess Yuki, doing the action scene in the kimono was difficult, but in particular when I was trying to fit in as a man, I would think about how I could be convincing as a man, being the only woman surrounded by all actual men. So that was the most challenging part.
一番好きだったシーンは最初のお父さんとの紙を燃やされる絵を燃やされるシーンだったんですけど、あそこはセリフはあったんですけど、やっぱ自分が役を演じている時にここはなんかセリフがあるとなんかこう薄くなってしまうのが嫌だなと思っていて、そこは言葉なしに表情でこう伝えてみたいなと思って監督にそこは言葉なしにセリフをセリフじゃなくて、こう言葉じゃない風にこう伝えてみたいっていうのを監督に話してそれをやってみたんですけど、シーンとかは本当に一番最初の撮影の時だったので、なんかこう緊張感もありながらなんかすごい挑戦的でもありましたし、すごくこう思い出に残っています。
So my favorite scene to film was the scene with my father early on in the film when he burns my drawing, Princess Yuki's drawing. Initially there was dialogue in that scene, but as I was acting it out, I felt like speaking diluted the intensity of the scene, and so I wanted to do it without words. I wanted to express what she was going through my expression, and I discussed that with Bernard, and he allowed me to try it, and so that was exciting. And also it was a scene where it was in the earlier days of filming, so there was a certain nervousness and excitement, so that shooting that scene has felt really memorable for me.
There was a hand in the very back. Yes, and now there are two.
Thank you for a wonderful and surprising film. A lot of unusual twists. The question is actually for both. Can you talk about any upcoming projects that you're going to be working on, and if there's anything in particular that you're interested in trying to do?
What was the tail end of that? If there's anything.
Upcoming projects.
That in particular.
Anything? Yeah. I'm sure that Nana's made like 20 films since we finished. I'm gainfully unemployed.
今公開している映画がアメリカに上映されるかわからないんですけど、ギターを次弾いていて、それはなんかもっとなんか人間的なこうリアルな部分を描いていて、本当に話はとても淡々とはしているんですけど、そこにあるこう人間味だったりとか、なんかもっとこうフランス映画みたいな感じの映画なので、それはすごく私のお気に入りでもありますし、なんか役的にもなんか自分自身と似てる部分があったりする部分が多かったので、なんかその映画はぜひ見てもらいたいなと思います。
So there's a movie that's currently screening in Japan. I'm not sure if it'll be screening in the US, but in it I play guitar, and it's a fairly simple story, but there's a real sense of humanity in it, kind of like a rawness, and it has like a French film feel to it, and it's one of my favorite things I've worked on. And also on a personal level, there was a lot I could relate to with the role, so I hope you all will get a chance to see it.
What's it called?
A farewell love song.
さよなら口。
Sayonara Kutibiru, right? Farewell love song. And she also sings, and very well. And she's singing with the woman who is married in the film, who plays the wife of Takeru Sato. Her name is Mugi Kadowaki. And if you stay with us in the next few days, we're also showing another film that she's in. So, gainfully unemployed, really.
Yes.
And that's funny because you told me you're going to be working on something.
So I'm a liar.
So I know you don't really want to spill the beans on that, but I don't really think that you're not working.
No, I mean, I have various things I'm working on, but nothing that I can discuss without getting myself in trouble.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When you got that email out of the blue from Jeremy Thomas, Why do you think he came to you?
Good question. I think the real reason Jeremy came to me is I had been a long-term friend with someone Jeremy worked with a lot, who very sadly actually passed away at the end of last year, Nicholas Rogue, who was a genius in my book. He made probably the greatest British film ever made, Don't Look Now. And I'd worked with Nick in the early 80s. I worked on a film that Nick did called Insignificance. I actually made a music video for that film for a song that Roy Orbison performed. And Jeremy produced that film, and so Jeremy had sent me off to Nashville to make a video with Roy Orbison. This was in 1985, this is a long time ago. And I mean, I knew Jeremy a bit from that, but I hadn't really spoken to him since then. And there was a documentary that the BBC made about Nick, and I spoke on it, and obviously Jeremy spoke on it because Jeremy made 3 films with Nick. Bad Timing, Eureka, and Insignificance. And so I think he saw me, it's one of those things, I mean, I'm imagining that, I could be wrong, but I think that reminded him that I wasn't dead, you know.
I think he obviously has a sixth sense, because look what you've done.
Yeah, no, he was right, and I asked him, actually not that long ago, why did you call me Jeremy? He went, well, I just thought it was a good idea. I mean, it was he's really something, Jeremy. He's a great man, actually, and you know, I feel bad for him because you know he had a very close relationship with Nick, and of course he produced most of Bertolucci's later films too, and he lost both of them like last year.
But Mike-san is still with
And Mike has a new film that he did with Mike. He has a long-term relationship with Mike. That's right.
And in the same vein...
And with Oshima, of course, he made films.
Yes, of course. In the same vein, I'd like to know why you chose Nana-san for this role that you pumped up. I mean, it's based on a novel, this story, but you made the role much more significant, and then you selected Nana-san. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I had actually seen her in Silence, in the Scorsese picture, and she made a very strong impression with just a few scenes in that film. But that wasn't why. The reason I cast her is, actually she came to see me, and I think she was very tired the day she came to see me, because she didn't say very much, or give very much away. She was very, like, nonchalant, and I said, oh, you know, the way one does, what was it like working with Martin Scorsese? And Nana goes, yeah, it was all right. I thought, she's not easily flustered. No.
So what was it like to work with Bernard Rose?
監督はすごいもうパワフルで、なんかこう一人でアメリカから日本に来て映画を作る、こんなにこう勇気があって、でもそれにもやっぱ日本ってなんかこれはダメあれはダメみたいなのはあるんですけど、監督は負けずに俺はこうだこうしたいんだみたいなのがすごくこうあって、なんかこう監督見てて本当にいつも面白くて、なんかこんなこうパワフルな監督についていきたいなと思いましたし、すごく信頼してました。
So Bernard is very powerful. He came from Japan, came from the U.S. to Japan alone, and which takes a lot of courage in of itself. And in Japan, there's a lot of you can't do this, you can't do that. But he wouldn't really back down. He would just be like, I want it like this, and he would really commit to that. And so that was really fun for me to watch, and it made me want to follow him. And I also had a lot of trust in him.
Well, there was actually a very interesting moment, because when we started to film, it's a tradition in Japan that the whole crew and everybody goes to a shrine, and they kind of do a ceremony to ensure the safety of the crew and everybody's physical safety during the picture. So we did this thing, and then afterwards they all gathered in a room, and they said to me, you should give them a speech, you know, how you want things to go. And it's true, I was getting into a lot of arguments with people because I would say I want to improvise, and they'd be like, no, there's no improvising in Japan. And I said, and so I thought, okay, I have to find a way to make this work. So we were in the shrine after we'd done the ceremony, and I had all the crew were there, and I said to them, okay, I have a bunch of rules. Rule number 1 is we're going to improvise. Actually, it was very effective. But all the actors, I'd already worked with them, we'd already done a lot of improvising in rehearsals, and they were all very, very, very good at it. And none of them they were all on the same page. But I mean, honestly, I had a great time, and everybody was fantastic, from the prop guys to the costume people, and they really, the kind of level of attention to detail and hard work was very, very impressive.
And that really shows on the screen. Let us thank once again Miss Nana Komatsu.